Good day, students. Welcome to discussion of first chapter of your subject strategic tax planning, which is very important subject for your life and career. As I always say throughout my lecturing career, that this subject is very important for anyone, any person who wants to develop their career, and any business leader who need to develop their businesses, right? So this is, as you may already know, it's at another level. This curriculum is at another level, saying that this is for C-suite level, executive, chief financial officer, chief executive officer, likewise, right? So you should have overall understanding on every area. You need to have strategic thinking when you learn this subject, right? So you should strategically look at taxation and devise strategic plannings for this tax subject, right? For you to do that, you need to understand comprehensively every aspect of the law, tax law, right? Not only tax law, there are different laws that revolve around taxation. So everything included under this syllabus, so you need to learn all this. So what is first step? Without discussing on syllabus areas, I'll go to first chapter directly. So first chapter, let's see your syllabus here, right? I marked some areas, for your easy understanding. Chapter is SL25 strategic tax planning. And for you to give understanding, it includes advanced corporate and personal income tax computation, indirect taxation, international taxation, transfer pricing. You might already know from your previous level what are these terminologies, but at this level you need to understand it in comprehensive way, right? Not just preparing a computation. You need to look at some computation and understand what sort of planning you can do, right? Complex tax issues, recommend strategies for compliance, efficiency, legal and ethical consideration, not only preparation of tax computation, not only strategic planning, but you have to look at your ethical aspects also. Nowadays, there could be many unethical activities revolve around this tax field, right? So you need to avoid that. Those areas are there in your syllabus, right? So today's session purpose is not to dig down into all the areas of syllabus, but to give you what is your chapter, right? Under that, 40% is allocated for tax and law for business continuity at C-suite level. That's very important, right? There is a difference. When some executive person doing the computations, he look at only entries. What is the breakdown of this expense, whether it can be allowed or not. Likewise, if you don't understand what I am saying for the moment, that's okay, but I expect you are coming from the previous level with some understanding on taxation. But don't worry, I am giving from 0 to 100% fully, right? For you, I am giving from 0%. If you are someone who never learned tax, you also can learn this subject from me, right? From 0 to 100%, more than 100, right? So at the introduction, if I am saying some word that you cannot understand, don't worry, I'll be explaining all those things when we go through these sessions, right? So be with me. Tax and law for business continuity. So what I was telling is, junior person, he might be looking at some breakdowns, but at C-suite level, chief, C-suite level, what kind of thinking you should have, what kind of thinking you should encompass. Think about that. You are not going and looking at this small difference. You are the person who plan it, right? You are the person who plan it. You are the person who advised to board of directors for billion of transactions, right? You may be the consultant for the board of directors, in-house consultant as a chief financial officer, right? For that, you need to have better understanding of the law. Not, you cannot ignore small areas saying that it's not our level, right? At this level also, you need to have 100% understanding. Only through that you can plan tax, you can devise strategies. So be with me, don't try to avoid some areas saying it's at lower level, right? Even though it's termed at CSU's level, you need to understand everything, there's no excuse, right? So let's see, under this first one, most important chapter, if you are devising in practice also, if you are devising some plan, the most important plans, students, coming from this direct tax, corporate income tax, right? For businesses at your level, it's mostly businesses, but individual taxation also there, as I have shown in your module discussion. Here, prepare comprehensive income tax computation for corporate entities, including residents and non-residents. So you need to prepare comprehensive tax computation. It's not just taking profit before tax, taking some disallowable expenses out, likewise, right? You need to prepare comprehensive computations. So you need to ready for that. So first chapter is income tax. Income tax, right? So let's discuss about the income tax today. Before I'll start for the income tax, there are few rules. First one, right? Throughout these sessions, these discussions, I will be using your Inland Revenue Act. You might be knowing this, Inland Revenue Act. So I'll teach you, right? Inland Revenue Act. Here, in practice, student, as a tax consultant, what we suggest for our trainees, our people who are learning from us is, don't look at consolidated versions of these act. You know what is consolidated version? For act, there could be many amendments. Then there will be a version of act that incorporate all amendments into one particular document set. So what our advice as tax consultant to our juniors is, don't use those consolidation. You should be able to refer each individual amendment act. But at your level, your C-suite level, CFO, no? So I am using the consolidated Inland Revenue Act, which is published in the Department of Inland Revenue website. You can see it. I'll show. Here, if you are going to Department of Inland Revenue website, you can go ire.gov.lk, then downloads income tax with effect from 1819, right? So here you can download all the acts. Here you can see consolidated text of the Inland Revenue Act. So this document I will be using. This will be your text, right? Your textbook throughout. Why I am doing it? After you be qualified, you don't refer our notes, no? So I'm very reluctant to use notes, right? In my lecturing, I very reluctant to give notes, but what I do is I use this version. So it's very easy for you, right? So easy for you. Why? You are learning from the exact resource without referring my notes. So after being qualified also, you know where the source, you know how to refer that. So that's a skill that you should improve, right? That's a skill, how to refer original act, right? So that need to be taken with you, right? Maybe at the exam also that will be helpful rather than looking at some notes. So you should take this consolidated text with you and refer it with me, but at the exam you might be allowing to take only the amendments, right? Only the amendments. But at your my lectures I am using this. I'll share what are the amendments. And if you need to download anything, let's say you are someone who need to learn from yourself, there are guide in the Revenue Act guide, right? So that's also you can learn. And there are other downloads that's available in this site. You can download it, and from institute publication also you can purchase all the gazette and everything, right? So that's one part. Next part throughout my sessions, next important thing. I already said I am very reluctant to give notes, right? Next one, you should be able to provide us feedback. If you need any feedback, right, on our lectures, you should be able to provide it, right? So let's say if you can't understand one particular subject clearly, you can drop us message. So you already have institute WhatsApp numbers, connections, everything. In addition to that, you can have my number also for any technical matters, right? For any technical matters, you can drop a message, WhatsApp message, right? For any technical area that you not understood clearly, if there are any, right? But I am taking every effort to explain you from 0 to 100%. Don't worry, there won't be anything that unclear for you, right? And if you are a real learner, you should be invest your entire most of time, right? Whatever the available time, you should invest in this subject, right? This subject will give you a differentiation in the market. There are many chartered accountants who don't understand tax. That's why there are consultants. That's why we have jobs, right? It's not to file return. We are not going after filing returns, right? We have jobs because chartered accountants, many other accountants, many C-suite level people cannot understand tax laws. But for you, students who are learning from me should be the people who understand this law subject better, right? So that's my personal target. In this tax field, students who learning from me will be at the top level, right? In this tax field, I'm pretty sure on that. That's I have done already for my trainees and all, right? So you need to follow all the guidance, and I am teaching a law, so every word that I am saying is very important, right? You cannot avoid anything. You have to follow every word that I am saying. That's very important. For law, even comma is very important, right? So every word that I am saying is very important. You have to carefully listen to me and do what I am asking you to do, right? There was students who got prizes. I just teach to 3 or 4 students many years back. They got prizes. Why? They did everything that I asked them to do, right? So you also need to do that. Then you can definitely get a prize for this subject. I expect student learning from me get prize. So we are sacrificing our time. We have other works also, but here we are giving our knowledge and time for you to learn well, right? Next one, right? Income taxation, income tax. If I am coming from the beginning, what is this tax, right? What is this tax? Maybe in your earlier stages, or maybe in AAT or some kind of other program, you might learn that there are 2 branches of tax: direct tax versus indirect tax, right? Indirect tax. So direct tax means person who pay the tax bear the cost of the tax, right? It's been charged from you, direct tax. So person who earn income pay the tax and bear the cost, right? So income tax is a direct tax. Income tax is a direct tax. Income tax is a direct tax, right? Indirect tax is kind of a VAT, value added tax. Person who pay the tax do not bear the cost of tax, right? So it's VAT. For example, that's a VAT, right? So I hope you have these basic understandings. Then we will move on to our legal discussions, right? Legal discussion, I said I'll take in the Act, Inland Revenue Act, right? I'll give a background on this Act. Inland Revenue Act number 24 of 2017 and subsequent amendment to it. Subsequent amendments. Right. So this act is done in 2017. 2017 there was a discussion with the IMF and all. So this act came into operation with effect from 1st April 2018, right? So this act effected from this date. Before that there was bill being passed. Everyone looked at bill, and this act was passed on with effect from this date, right? So this act was student, as we were analyzed at that time. This act firstly being implemented in Ghana. You know there is a state called Ghana, the country called Ghana, right? IMF has tried this act initially in Ghana. The same act been implemented in Sri Lanka also, right? So that's the background of it. Then this has been already subject to certain amendment, as I shown you in the Department Inland Revenue website. First amendment was on this, you may be aware that with the economic crisis and all, there was some adjustment that came on 2021, then 2022, 23 two amendments, and 2025 one amendment. That's effect for your exams, right? So these are the amendments to the date. Why there was a requirement for act? Why there was a requirement for a new act? You can see there was an old act, Inland Revenue Act number 10 of 2006. That's the old act, right? That act also was amended many times, right? Amended many times. Therefore, this new Inland Revenue Act has been effected, and there was some political reasons and economic reasons. Based on those reasons, this has been amended and not amended, repealed. This old act has been repealed and new act has been effected, right? So since this is a wider planning area, so this repeal and all are discussed under law called Ordinance of Interpretation, right? So I'm not going to teach that. If you are going to learn it on your own, you can learn it, right? How repeal being affected for act, likewise those are discussed under Ordinance of Interpretation, right? So it's not under your syllabus, right? I'm giving additional information. Now we will discuss go into this act. This consolidated version incorporates 5 amendments, right? 5 amendments as we discussed earlier. Amendments that is there up to now, right? So main thing is, student, when you learn this act, main thing is you need to understand the structure of this act, right? You need to understand how this act is been structured, right? For you to understand that, the effective method is to look at this content, right? Look at this content and memorize, right? I'll explain one by one when we are discussing further chapters, but for you to give some kind of understanding here. For a tax statute, students, firstly, first section normally is, we call the sections, right? Section, then subsection, then items, likewise we speak, right? Section, first section normally to refer the name of the act, right? Remember that. It is to refer the name. These are you discuss at your lower levels also, but I want to give you all the understanding from 0 to more than 100, right? Then most important provision will be this charging provision, right? We call it charging provision, right? Charging provision. Imposition of income tax. Most important section is this charging provision. Normally it is section 2, but there are some differentiation in other tax statute, right? But normally it should be a section 2. This section gives you understanding who should pay tax, on what you should pay tax, on which period you should pay tax. Likewise, on charging provision, on what this tax is being charged, right? On what this tax being charged is explained under charging provision. So this is the most important section in the act, right? Most important. Why? If anything do not comes under this provision, if anything does not comes under this provision, that is not liable for the tax, right? That is not liable for the tax. So that's the most important thing, right? Then there are other structures. Before going to structure, we will learn charging provision. First thing is to learn charging provision, right? So I am teaching you the act, right? Teaching you the act, so you will understand it better in real world also, and for your exams as well. That's easy for you. I have seen there are some notes, the same thing has been copied and pasted in the note, but it's not the proper way. So you have to look at act again and notes. That's very difficult for you. That's why I am going with this path. Right. First one, charging provision. For this is act student, in short we call it IRA, right? We call it IRA. Inland Revenue Act, IRA, right? In everywhere you also can refer it as IRA. People understand it, IRA, right? Inland Revenue Act, Inland Revenue Act, right? So it's not Income Tax Act, it's Inland Revenue Act, Inland Revenue Act, right? Remember that. Sometimes students get it wrong, saying even when we are referring also we are saying Income Tax Act likewise. But the correct name should be Inland Revenue Act, IRA, right? Charging provision. So let's see what is charging provision. section 2. Everything under this act you need to learn, right? You already learned under your previous levels or previous programs, previous courses, but for this level also you need to learn everything, and more than that there are other things to learn. See, there are 203 sections and schedules also, schedules that refer to those sections. Right. An act to provide for the imposition of income tax. That's the title. Bill is enacted by the Parliament of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka as follows. This act may be cited as Inland Revenue Act number 24 of 2017 and comes into operation 1st April 2018, right? That's what I already explained. Short title and the effective date of the act. So when you're reading act, there is a short title in the right side of the act. So that's we call title of the section. Right? There is a short title of the section, and for this act there is a title. Right. Part 1. There are several chapters, and under that chapters there are divisions, then the sections. We call this as a section, then this is subsection, within bracket subsection, then you have items, right? Moreover, you might be having another sub items also, section, subsection, items, and maybe sub items, right? So read. Income tax shall be payable for each year of assessment. Every wording is very important, students. Income tax shall be payable for each year of assessment, right? So shall be payable, income tax, there is a tax called income tax, that shall be, it must, right, shall be payable for which period? Each year of assessment. Which period? Which period? So year of assessment, right? Year of assessment. So you learn everything correctly, right? Everything correctly from today onwards. Take it in your mind. Today onwards you learn everything, nitty-gritty of this income tax act very correctly, right? By, now we know each year of assessment. Then important part, by a person who has a taxable income for that year. Who has a taxable income for that year. This is important. A person who receives a final withholding payment during that year. See how nice this provision is, right? So it addresses few areas. What are the areas that it addresses, students? If you can see. There is a tax called income tax which shall be payable for a year of assessment. Which period? It addresses period, right? Otherwise the people will think after I become age of 45 I would pay this, right? Oh no, I don't need to pay for a year, I'll pay it for a month. Likewise, right? So address these concerns, it has clearly mentioned for each year of assessment, right? And who should pay? There are two types. A person who has taxable income for that year, right? Who has taxable income, or a person who receives final withholding payment during that year. By who? A person. By who? A person. Which person? On what? By whom? Whom? A person. Then on what? What? Who has taxable income or final withholding payment, right? So 3 question it has addressed, student, for you to easily remember. Just think, take 1 minute and think what are the 3 questions this section address, right? I'll explain. First question. On which period? 1W question. On which period? On which period? Then who should pay? Which period? Who? Next one. Who should pay? Then on what? On what? Right? So what are the question? Which period? Who should pay? Which? Then on what? And these are the questions, student. These are the questions that this charging provision address. Right? These are the questions this charging provision address. Right. So what are the answers? First one. On which period? For a year of assessment. For a year of assessment. Year of assessment. Wordings are important. It's not a year, it's a year of assessment, right? Year of assessment. Then who should pay? A person. A person. Right? A person. And on what? On what? That's the most important. Right? On what? So on what? There are two that it is discussed. First one, taxable income. On taxable income, that's part A, part A, part B. See, part B, final withholding payment. On final withholding payment received, right? Received. Final withholding payments. Received, right? So these are the questions that addressed by section 2. Section 2, right? So now it's easy for you to understand, remember the section 2. Section 2 and address 3 important questions. On which period? Year of assessment. We need to learn what is year of assessment. And who should pay? A person. Still we don't know who is a person, right? A person, right? A person. And on what? This is very important. So taxing, your income tax has 2 parts of it, right? Income tax is a 2 part. Income tax has two parts. Part A, tax on taxable income, part B, tax on final withholding payment. Understand this final withholding payment, this is a short form, right? Final withholding payments, right? Then this is the income tax liability, but I'll explain that this is final, right? There's no more taxes, you will learn it, right? So this is a two part. When you do a income tax computation, you always need to remember it has two part. First part, this I know that everyone understand this part from your previous level. You are doing computation for this part, but for this tax on final withholding payment also a part of income tax, right? So there is two part that comes from section 2, right? It's better if you remember these section, students, but it's not necessary for your exam. But if you remember, that's good for your career, and you can show colors at your exam also. I hope every one of you will get prize, right? So if you are take prize, you better understand and remember these section, right? So next question, student. What are the next questions that comes to your mind? Right? So you might be wondering, what is year of assessment? What is year of assessment? What is year of assessment? Then you might be thinking, who is a person? Who is a person? Who is a person? Now, students, when we read action, we normally try to take meaning of word through the act, right? Not from the general meaning. First option is to see whether there is any meanings given for each word in the act itself, right? Any meaning given, any definition given in the act itself for different wordings. If you cannot see this color, I'll take this color. Who is a person? Who is person? Right? Then what is year of assessment? What is year of assessment? Who is a person and what is year of assessment? That you need to understand. Maybe that's question you will have, right? Another question also there. What is taxable income? Right? That's what we are going to learn throughout these sections, this discussion, these sessions, right? And what is final withholding payments? Those are the questions you might be having, right? So students, for you to understand word in action, I said you have to first look at whether there is any meaning given in the act itself, right? Normally this income tax act, students, if you go to this content, you can see section 195, yes. Interpretation, chapter 20, section 195, interpretation. These chapters you don't have to remember, right? Even I am not remembering these things. But section, if you know the section, that's better, right? Interpretation, that's interpret, that define, right? Define certain wordings, right? Not all, right? Not all. Certain wordings are defined in the act itself. So you can refer, if there is any question when you read in the act, for you to understand what the act meant by person, what the act meant by year of assessment, all might be there in interpretation. In addition to that, some other wordings may be described in other sections also, right? This associated person described in this, right? When you are looking at that further, you will understand these definitions are there, right? Maybe year of assessment would not be under interpretation. There is another section. Likewise, you have to see in that, throughout that, whether there is any wording definition given in the act, right? So we cannot remember everything, students, but in practice what I do is, normally if I want to understand a word in act, I am searching that word in the act itself. I press Ctrl F and search it, right? These main areas we know it's there in the act, right? We remember it, right? So interpretation section, you have definition for person, right? Definition for person. Who is a person is defined under interpretation section, but year of assessment defined under section 20, right? Another section. Likewise, there are different sections that you need to follow in understanding these provisions, right? Maybe my discussion bit lengthy because I want you to give more understanding, right? What you can do is, when you are following my lectures, firstly you get understanding, same time you better refer past papers also, right? If you want to refer past papers, I will make sure that past paper discussion being uploaded to the system before we go through this discussion, right? So you can refer that also. For your syllabus, this is a new syllabus, but past paper also play a role, right? So before you are learning all these nitty-gritties, you will understand what is the objective. So I recommend that approach as well, right? Where we were understanding this section, now you need to understand who is a person, who is a year of, what is the year of assessment, right? First question, which period? No? So firstly we will understand what is year of assessment in coming discussion. So students, let's see what is year of assessment. What is year of assessment? You learn that income tax shall be payable for a year of assessment, right? So what is year of assessment? Before going to the act itself, I'll explain it like this, students. Now this is there is a Inland Revenue Act, and that act asks people to pay a tax, right? So next question people would have is, for which period they should determine their tax liability. Is it a month? Is it a 3 months quarterly time? Is it a 6 month time? Or is it a 1 year time? Right? So that's an obvious question, students. So law has addressed it. They have clearly mentioned it as for a year of assessment. So what is year of assessment? Student, you might heard that term financial year. Financial year. Normally it refers 1st Jan of particular year to 31st December, right? For the same year. But year of assessment is different, students, right? It's we call tax year sometime in some countries, right? So year of assessment is not this, right? Year of assessment means, student, 12-month period, 12 months period commencing from April 1st of each year. So that's the long wordings that is there in the act, right? So in simple terms, students, year of assessment means period of 12 months that started from 1st April of any year to 31st March of subsequent year. Let's say plus 1, right? Subsequent year. Current year to subsequent year, right? Let's say 2000 25, 2025, 2026. That's how we write year of assessment, 2025 to 2026, right? So this year of assessment, 25-26, we call 25-26. What does it means? It means April 1st, 2025 to 31st March 2026, right? So no explanation required further. So this is the year of assessment for tax purpose. What is the important? You need to compute your tax liability considering your taxable income and final withholding payment received during this 12-month period, right? During this 12-month period. It is not a 1 month, it is not a 3 months, it is not a 6 month, or it is not any other date range, duration. It is 12 months from this date to this date, right? So where does it state, students? It is not section 195 which I mentioned earlier as interpretation section. This is coming from, students, section 20. Section 20. So let's see the section. Section 20. Yeah. Section 20, subsection 1. Section 20, subsection 1. Read it. The year of assessment means the period of 12 months commencing on the first day of April of any year and ending on the 31st day of March in the immediately succeeding year, right? So this is the definition for year of assessment, student. You have to remember this, right? There could be questions. Now you are in tax planning positions, right? There will be different concerns, right? You might be preparing your accounts in different period likewise, right? So what is the important, students? What is the importance? As I mentioned earlier, now you need to compute your tax liability considering this period. So you need to know your taxable income for this period, final withholding receipt for this period, right? We learn under charging section, right? So student, let's say you are a company that need to pay taxes. That means you have to decide at your C-suite level, you have to decide that, let's say you are forming new company, you have to decide what period you are preparing your accounts, right? You may have to take a decision on that, right? Board of directors don't know about that, but being CFO or a tax consultant, you know it. Which period you need to prepare your accounts? If you are aligning with tax year of assessment, student, you need to prepare your accounts covering this period, right? It's better, that's easy, right? So no further works, right? So it's easy, right? You are in same year as government wanted you to be in. Government wanted to assess your profit and loss for this period, and if you are preparing your accounts also for this period, that's very easy, students, right? So that could be one decision that you need to take in a future date. Future date when you are working at C-suite level, right? So student, think further. Now you might have seen that at this level, you might have already seen that there are many organizations, many companies, especially banks, let's say banks, not only banks, many other, normally banks, right? If you are taking, you can download and see the account set. They are having account set for the period of 1st Jan, let's say 2025 to 31st December 2025. So are they preparing another account set covering April to March? That's the question, right? Now their account set is within this period, right? So account set, you should have simple understanding that profit in the account set, let's say, equal to taxable income, right? That's the taxable, let's say. So you are preparing your account set for this period. So you have profit for this period. But now government asks you to pay taxes on not on this period, but on April to March, right? April to March, another period. So how this complication being addressed, student? Now there is a complication in practice, right? So there are organizations that need to prepare accounts in different periods, especially companies and maybe trust, right? They need to prepare different period accounts in. So how you gonna address it? Let's see. Law address every practical difficulty as much as possible, right? That's the important things in law. Where a trust, now still we haven't learned who is a person, right? Under person definition there is a trust or company and there are many other 8 parties. However, for the time being, understand this section apply for a trust or company only, right? Where a trust or company is unable to submit the accounts for the period of 12 months of the year of assessment as provided in subsection 1. That's mean April to 1st to March 31st, right? If you can't provide the accounts for this period, such trust or company may apply to the Commissioner General, requesting that the accounts based on alternative period of 12 months be used to compute the income tax payable for a given year of assessment, right? So if your company is unable to prepare, maybe for a valid reason, right? You cannot easily determine that I don't want to prepare this period accounts likewise, right? There should be a valid reason, right? And if you can't prepare your account set for this given taxable period, right? Law grant you opportunity to request, apply to the Commissioner General, asking for them to prepare your tax computation also for different account period as they can prepare, right? So let's say I having a company, I cannot prepare account set from April to March. So I want to prepare accounts. Maybe my head office is a foreign company. For them, they need Jan to December account set, right? So if I am going to prepare April to March, that is a double work for me, right? Double work for me. I need to prepare Jan to December accounts to report my parent company in abroad and to report Department of Inland Revenue for the income tax purposes. I need to prepare another account set for April to March. To avoid this duplication of account preparation work, what I can do as CFO, I can ask from the apply to Commissioner General asking alternative period of year of assessment. See how flexible the law is. The law is very flexible. Even your parent company does not. Parent company do not say that okay, if law require, you prepare it for April to March. But your law say yes, if you can't prepare account set for April to March, you prepare it for Jan to December. But you need to get permission from the Commissioner General. Let's say the Commissioner General may approve such request on such terms and conditions as he thinks fits, right? So Commissioner General, when we are approving it, when Commissioner General approving it, he gives some conditions, right? there should be certain condition, student. Let's say you were in preparing accounts from Jan to December. Then how you address that gap period? Suddenly you are changing to April to March. How you address this gap period? Likewise, all those conditions Commissioner General will give as a conditions in his letter of approval, right? There are certain approvals, right? The Commissioner General may approve such request on such terms and conditions as he thinks fit. The Commissioner General may revoke such approval if the trust or company fail to comply with terms and conditions attached to the approval, right? So three things. If you need to prepare accounts for different period, you can do it, but you need to apply to Commissioner General. Then Commissioner General will approve your request subject to certain condition. If you do not satisfy those conditions, those are very easy conditions, not a much thing, right? You have to prepare first account set covering both period, then publish likewise things, right? Likewise, right? So if you satisfy those conditions, you can apply this year of assessment change, right? Otherwise what happens? Otherwise you cannot apply it, right? A change approved under subsection 2 shall not result in altering the time at which the trust or company shall pay tax by installment and assessment under chapter 4. So we are covering this area, tax administrative part, later, but for the moment I will explain it like this, right? Right. Now let's say you were preparing accounts from let's say firstly April to March. March is the ideal period for you to prepare accounts as per Act, right? So your first installment due on August 15, second installment due on November 15, third installment due on February 15, right? Next, fourth installment due on May 15, right? Then final one September 30th, and you need to file return 30th November. This is the timeline under Inner Revenue Act, right? So this is the timeline. This is the timeline that covers this year of assessment. This year of assessment, right? This year of assessment. So this year of assessment is being covered. What is the timeline? This timeline. You need to pay taxes on this period, right? This period you need to pay taxes. Now problem arises, student. See what is the problem? You suddenly request CJIR to approve to prepare your accounts covering Jan to December. Jan to December. Jan to December, right? Right. So now you have a different set of period as your year of assessment. Now see, this person, if you are preparing accounts from April to March, you are paying your first installment within how many months? From the start of year of assessment. April, May, June, July, then 15 days from August, right? 4 and 15 days, 4 months and 15 days, 4 months plus 15 days, right? This is the first installment. Now, are you taking this time gap for this new year of assessment? Let's say Jan, Feb, March, April. Then do you need to pay tax on April plus 15 days? That means May 15. Do you need to pay taxes on May 15? if you apply same time gap, let's say May 15, right? If you apply this similar timeline here, your due date would be May 15, right? Your due date for first installment would be this. However, student, now with this provision, a change approved under subsection 2 shall not result in altering the time at which the trust or company shall pay tax by installment and on assessment under chapter 8, right? So I explained the installment. What it say? This change should not affect the time of payment of tax. Change should not affect the time at which the tax should be paid, right? So what does that mean? That means even there is a change, you can apply similar due date, 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 similar due date. So your due dates also same, right? No change. Your due date also same as for a year of assessment starting from April to March. That's the importance you need to understand. So you pay your first installment on August 15 if you are applying January to December period of account set. That's mean how many time gap? 8 months and 15 days, right? So you have a lot of time. And same due dates for the second installment. Same due date February 15 for third installment. Same due date May 15 for fourth installment. September 30th for final payment and return filing same due date, right? So there is no change, student. There is no change. That's the importance that you need to understand. This could be happen, these changes could be happen due to many reasons. Maybe your articles provide for that. It's required, right? Your contributors need that. Or maybe your parent need that. Likewise, there could be reasonable reasons, right? Therefore, you can request it from CGIR to change your year of assessment. So what we learned so far? What we learned so far as a summary, if we take year of assessment under section 2, year of assessment, that is April 1st to March 31st, right? Next one, if need alternative period of 12 months to prepare accounts apply to CGIR. Apply to CGIR. Then CGIR will approve subject to conditions. Subject to conditions, right? Next one. Such approval do not affect tax payment due dates. Right. These are the simple thing we learned under section 20. Section 20. Right. So what else, students? What else? Right. This is also a new thing. Right. Everything is new for you since this is only the beginning. Right. Let's say now this act came into operation. Act effected on which date? April 1st. April 1st, 2028. Now there are many companies, students, there are many companies who were preparing accounts for a different period of months, right? Not from April to March, but maybe from Jan to December, July to likewise, right? So what happens to those companies? Do they need to apply again when this act came into operation? Do they need to apply freshly? Now there are many old companies, right? Let's take banks, almost all the banks were preparing accounts from Jan to December even before act comes into operation, right? So what happens then, students, right? Students, remember that in old act 2016 6 Inland Revenue Act also there was a provision similar to this, asking companies to request from CGIR to prepare accounts for a different period if they are unable to prepare for this period. Previous act also same period were there, right? So student, act provides a provision called transitional provision, right? Transitional provision. When you are transferring from old act to new act, you are repealing old act, right? You are removing old act completely. It's not amendment, right? It's a different thing. You are not amending and taking same provision into continuation, right? What you do, you repeal old act, 2006 act, right? 2006 act you repealed. This act, Inland Revenue Act number 10 of 2006, you repealed, you removed it, you take it out and brought this new act into operation, right? To address any complication in this transitional period, law introduced transitional provision, student, right? Transitional provision. So we will discuss that separately under separate discussion. However, since we are discussing charging provision, under charging provision, this is applicable for this discussion, right? So transitional provision provides that you need to your approval that you received under old act has effect under the current new act also. Therefore, you don't need to go to CGIR and ask for approval again because you have done it in old act, done it under old act, right? So you don't have to go to CGIR and ask it. If you have already obtained the approval under old act. So where does it says? It says under section 203. Student, I couldn't tell you earlier at the beginning one thing. When I am lecturing, I said that every wording is important, right? So my lecture you need to write, right? You need to write everything. You need to write everything, not this discussion. Everything related to explanation you need to write and memorize, right? I am explaining the law, I am reading the law. So let's go to section 200. I am not supposed to give you notes, but I'm explaining, then you need to take down the, now you are at strategic level, no, 𝐶-suite level. So there would not be any lecturer that dictating you to write something, right? So you need to prepare your own notes and get ideas from my explanation. Section 203. Let's see section 203. Section 203. This subsection shall apply where the person the year of assessment under repeal act is at the time of the repeal legislation ceased to have effect a period of 12 months other than the year ending 31st March. The person shall be deemed to have been granted approval by Commissioner General under Section 22 to use that period as the person's year of assessment under this act, right? So we discussed section 20 and subsection 2, which is the section that we need to get approval from CGIR, and this transitional provision, section 203 subsection 3 says, if you have already obtained the approval under previous repealed act, that approval is still valid. You don't need to go to CGIR again and get the approval. So that's the simple understanding, right? So now year of assessment part is completed. There are certain interpretation behind all these discussions, but without applying those interpretation, we'll understand the law first, right? So now year of assessment part complete. Let's discuss other parts. So student, now we learn what is year of assessment. This part done. What is year of assessment done? Right? So what is the next thing that you need to learn? Next thing. Who is a person? Right? Now person, a tax shall be payable for each year of assessment by a person. For both part of the tax, taxable income, final withholding person, it's beginning with the term person. So who is a person, student? Who is actually a person? So that's the next question that you will have in your mind, right? Let's see. Who is a person? Who is a person? So what is the general understanding, student? Who is a person? There are persons. Persons refers to individuals like you and I, right? Or there are legal person, companies, likewise. There are many persons, right? Legal personalities, legal persons, and natural persons as you and I, natural persons. So those are the general understanding. But student, I said, when you read the act, you always need to see whether there is particular definition given for particular word under the act, in the act, right? So this person is defined. Let's say you are a one who do self-studies, then how you learn it, right? You learn it, you can search it in your act. Who are the persons, right? Let's say you don't know, it is there in section 195, right? But you need to learn it, self-study. You find it and search it. That's how someone who do self-studies learn, right? So who is a person, student? That's defined under section 195, which is interpretation section. Interpretations. interpretations, right? There are 8 type of persons, right? 8 types. Now just think, give a minute and think what could be 8 types, right? Let's go to section 195 and understand who are persons. So students, see interpretation, right? Section 195. Very important to understand each and every wording in the act, student, right? You cannot directly go to definition unless you are reading this beginning part. In this act, unless the context otherwise requires, right? So student, what does it mean? In this act, unless the context otherwise requires, agricultural business means the business of producing. Likewise, there is a definition for term agricultural business. Likewise, there is a definition for term person also. So what does it means actually, student? In this act, unless the context otherwise required, that's very important, right? If your context require another definition, you are allowed to take it. So it means this definition is not strictly applied, right? You are even in practical world, you cannot stick into one definition, student. There could be other scenarios as well which lawmaker couldn't apply, right? So to understand and to give some space for that gap, law state like this: unless the context otherwise required, right? If the context that you are in not required to define in any other way, you can apply this definition, right? If your context required to define in any other way, you better go to that other way, right? So it's also subject to changes, student. It's not strictly applied. If your context need to define this term in another way, you can apply that other way definition also. That is not there in the act, right? So there are space for changes for definitions, right? So technological world, there could be these terms will be outdated in future, right? So you can use the definition that's required from your context also. So let's go to, now it's on alphabetic order, right? Firstly the term A, which is starting from A, likewise, right? So you have to go to term person. Here you can look at, I said, firstly A, then B, C, likewise. You need to see where is P. Now we are looking at P, person, right? So this is a skill, student, right? How to refer the act is a skill. So you need to learn it for your exam and for your decision making at C-suite level. Yes. MNOP. MN. Here ONOP. Partnership, payment. Here person. Person means an individual. An individual. You know who is an individual? A person, natural person like you and I is an individual. Right? Means individual first. Unless the context otherwise require, unless the context otherwise require, persons means an individual or entity, right? So you can refer whether individual also defined, right? You can check it, but I am teaching you it's not defined in the act, right? means an individual. Entity, again defined under 195, right? That's, let's say, second, right? Second. And includes a body of persons, corporate or unincorporated, and executor, non-governmental organization, and charitable institution. So many persons are included. Individual, entity, and you don't know still what is entity, right? Body of persons, corporate or unincorporated, executor, non-governmental organization, and charitable institution. 6 type here, right? Let's write it. Person includes, means, person means persons means person means individual, right? Individual. Next, entity. Entity. Right. So what is entity? Let's look at that also. Entity. So how you look at, now you are in P, letter P, now you have to go up until you find letter E here. Entity means unless context otherwise require, in this act unless context otherwise require, entity means a company, partnership or trust, but excludes an individual, right? So entity means a company, partnership or trust, and individual do not include, considered as a entity. Why? It's already covered under persons definition, right? Company, partnership or trust, these 3 type of persons. Entity, company, partnership, or trust. Right. Persons mean individual, entity, and there was other definition, body of corporate or body of person, corporate or unincorporated. Let's go to that definition again. Individual, entity, then a body of person, corporate or unincorporated. Body of persons, corporate or unincorporated. So this cover wide area, students, right? Any gathering, maybe it's a corporate formal gathering or a non-formal one, that's also a person, right? That's also the kind of a well-say associate in your village, funeral associate, likewise, right? There could be any body of persons, corporate or it could be formal or informal, right? That's also termed as a sometimes sport association in your village, likewise. That's also considered as a person, right? Next one, an executor, executor. When you winding up or your properties need to be executed, then executor will be appointed, right? Executor, right? Executor. Or next one, non-governmental organization. Non-governmental organization. We call it NGOs, right? Or charitable institution. Student, these terms also again, non-NGO and charitable institution also again defined under section 195, right? But for our discussion today, discussion on charging section, it's not much relevant. This discussion relevant when you learn the taxation of other persons, right? Not the company or individuals, right? So these also are defined. Now how many persons? Now you can see 6, but if you actually numbered it, let's number 1 under entity, 2 partnership, 3, 4 here, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 type of persons. 8 type of persons are there. So under charging section, students, a person who has taxable income. So person, when act refers person, it includes all those persons. All of this, not only a company or individual, right? Not only that, everyone included. Almost all the type of organizations included under this. So that's a vast definition. So when you refer to a person in your act, that refers to all these 8 type of persons, right? Who should pay tax? A person. A person includes 8 type of persons, right? Which year? Year of assessment we learn. Now person also we learn, right? So person, 8 types, and this also categorize into resident person and non-resident person. We will learn later under this chapter we will learn, right? Resident person and non-resident person, it categorizes all these persons into these 2 types also, based on your tax liability, right? Now we discuss 2 important part in your charging section. Let's see what else, right? Now you have further question on this charging provision. We'll sort it out.